thank you everyone for coming and allowing me to address this. The rumors are true. We have been scouting some other teams, but how was I supposed to know that was illegal? We Michigan men do anything we can to get ahead, even if it may seem dirty. I'd like to remind you all that in spite of recent minor success, I am still 1-6 in bowl games and 2-5 against the Ohio State University. I'm just doing what I can to drag this sorry program out of the mud.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Week 12 Empire League podcast. I am your commissioner, Andy Cahill. That is your commissioner, Scott Sprague. Scott, say hello to the league.
What up?
A few news and notes. The trade deadline has passed. We will get into it a little bit later. It was very active on Monday. For those of you who have not been able to pay your league dues because you missed the deadline, because you are bad listeners, I will be reaching out to you directly. I will be figuring it out with you. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
Get in trouble.
Next year, I am gonna be implementing a late fee or something so that there's a incentive to get it done. Moving on, week 11 was, I think, a very exciting week. It was kind of chalky, but we did have a couple of very interesting, outcomes. Number one, Killing Unicorns.
Some of us needed the chalk. We were looking for the chalk. I needed it. I wanted it, and I got it. Killing Unicorns returns to form.
Yeah,
facing the field again, back to 155 points. It feels good.
Yeah, and I thankfully I did not bench Saquon after all of the hemming and hawing about satellite injuries last week, and he went out and was RB1. So good luck, Saquon. Good luck was had, and he along with Jaylen Warren powered my squad to the second most points in the league this week. Nolan, not so much. Nolan also returns to form, but more Nolan-esque form, aka fucking horrifying.
Yeah, back where he belongs. A nice humbling loss to Big Eider. Really, ever since the second he opened his mouth about his 2-game win streak, it's not looked good.
No, it hasn't been good ever since. What do you think the likelihood is that we get a contrition video? He's been in the chat saying that he's gonna come on the pod and smoke a bowl or whatever.
First of all, making me do more work is not an acceptable punishment for you. That's an acceptable punishment for myself.
Yes.
And one that I have not had to withstand this year. But no, I'm not just going to be doing podcasts all off season for people that couldn't do their punishment in time. I don't think he'll do it on his own, but the debt will be paid. Rest assured.
It will, and I want to be very clear. We try and keep it light here at the top, and we're talking about last week, but this is a serious thing that we want to talk about. The contrition videos are a part of the league. Number one, to just ensure that whichever team is in last is participating in the league in a meaningful way. It's not just a team that's not setting their lineup. That's one of the reasons. But another reason is that as someone who's done the last 2 contrition videos, it's kind of fun to make them, and it's definitely fun to see everybody's reaction. And you get laughed at, and you deserve it. And you earn those videos. And as I said in the chat, I think it was yesterday, Monday, I should say, I think combined between both videos, it took me 40 minutes. And that's just because I decided to get fancy with my second one.
Yeah, no, there's nothing that you can be doing that takes more than 5 minutes. The Briggsy did his he did his in like 3 minutes and then texted me the video and I put it up for him. There's no excuse not to do it. It will
Yeah.
be less painful just to do it.
Yeah.
But if you really want me to pick your end of year punishment, I will be so happy to.
Yeah.
And as the upcoming emperor, I feel like it's my obligation to.
All right, calm down there, bud. Not the emperor yet. But we do want to just also say again on a serious note, like Scott and I have been talking about this. We take the contrition videos really seriously. We're also we are totally willing to let you guys get out of it with a $20 payment to the bank. Like we're fine with that. But if we don't start to see the videos or a commitment to the payments, like we are going to discuss like some pretty significant punishments, and that could include loss of draft picks. And I can guarantee you it will not be a 3rd round pick. It will be a substantial pick, potentially a 1st rounder, especially if you're a team that has 9 1st round picks over the next 2 or 3 years.
Especially, and the more you skip, the more
Yeah.
severe the punishment will be. And if you skip a bunch and then also lose the toilet bowl, and I'm talking to everybody here, this applies to everybody. It definitely isn't just targeted at one individual.
Nope.
The punishment will be severe and you won't enjoy it. And I could tell you that I wouldn't enjoy giving it to you, but we both know that's not true. I'm sorry, all of us know it's not true. We're definitely talking to everybody here.
Everyone.
Yeah, it's going to be a horror show. But you might, I mean, at that point, once you lose the toilet bowl, it might not matter anymore because that punishment's going to be brutal.
And it's, you know, and last thing on this, and then we'll move on because, you know, nobody wants to listen to some serious conversation right now. Like, we don't want to like have to make serious, like shitty punishments that actually affect your fantasy team. Like, that's not what we want to do as commissioners, as people, as friends. Like, it's not what we want to do, but we just want to see participation. And like, we've made it as easy as we fucking can. Like, I don't need you to do anything except shoot a video with a cell phone and text it to me, and I will take care of it. Scott will do the same if that's like your commissioner contact is Scott. Like,
personally, there's nothing on the planet Earth that I would enjoy more than taking the 1st overall draft pick from Nolan. I know it's what he loves the most in the world. I know it's what he's been fighting for. He wants Bijan 2.0. But I won't let him do that to Garrett Wilson. I won't let him have him because I know it will happen the second Nolan drafts him. So if it comes to pass that we're taking over your 1st overall pick, which I feel like you're a good candidate to get, I can't wait for whoever the new commissioner of Moto Panakeiko is next year to enjoy having him for the rest of his career.
Well, we will decide any potential punishments after, you know, we know who hasn't fulfilled their contrition and who comes in last. You know, I obviously, like, there is one person in the league who keeps coming in last place each week and then not making a video, and he's very, very public about that. But like, this really does go for everyone. If like you're consistently just flaunting the system and not making videos, not doing the work, like, you know, we're gonna have to come down hard, and we don't want to do that.
Or we have a better team.
Moving on to more fun things. Bob is able to take out Briggsy and moves back into playoff contention, back into the 6th seed. The season ended today, he'd be in the playoffs. Really excited for Bob. And then Sprague's Dogs and Benny Denny, they went down to the wire on Monday night, but Benny Denny continues to just dominate. Scores 120 and, you know, takes the win there. Moving on to the power rankings, which is really just a fancy way of saying the standings.
No shit, Sherlock.
I think
is this a typo next to my?
There's something wrong with the standings. What's going on with the name?
There's a blemish of some sort. It's right after the 1, in between the 1 and my logo. What does that mean?
What does high score mean? New high score, is that bad? What does that mean? Did I break it?
I believe that means that you have clinched a playoff spot.
Oh, baby, it's clinched. It's so tight.
Yes, with his
That's a good thing, though,
victory,
right?
with his
Clinching
victory
is
this week,
good. That's what we want.
Killing Unicorns has clinched a playoff spot. Um, in other less exciting news, I moved up from 6th to 5th.
Wrong.
And or I stayed in 5th, but I was able to win. And Olave Lamp was able.
You didn't move a goddamn place in the standings. You just didn't lose.
I didn't lose,
Which is a win for you, but
which is in every way. And then Olave Lamp actually moves up, jumps over Griffin, takes 6th as mentioned, and is basically, we've talked about it like for a while. We talked about Briggsy and Nolan and McBuckets all having an opportunity to make a playoff push. I think we can almost 100% say that's over now. But Griffin, Olave Lamp, and myself, we are right on the bubble. We're right there fighting it out for 5 and 6, and the rest of the league is, looking at slightly higher standings numbers, which does bring us to a playoff picture. We do need to start talking about this. I mean, we are right
it is
there.
that time. And now I understand that most people in the league have not clinched their playoff berth yet. But this is what it will look like if and when you should join me in the playoff picture.
Yes. Some things to note here. Obviously we have sort of the 6 teams that we've expected to be in the playoffs all year currently are in, with McBuckets, Griffin, Nolan, and Briggsy in the toilet bowl. However, the interesting thing over the next 3 weeks is really going to be seeding. So over the next 3 weeks, the top 5 teams only play another team in the top 5 one time, and that's week 14, Scott versus Eric. Other than that, playoff teams are not playing each other, or at least the top 5 playoff teams are not playing each other. The top 5 pretty much exclusively plays the bottom 5. That week 14 matchup though, Scott, like you got to be looking forward to that one a little bit, between you and Eric.
Yeah,
like, you have an opportunity to really spoil his playoff seeding.
And mine. Although I have clinched the playoffs, I have not clinched that coveted bye week yet. We're working on it. But that could come down to that week 14 matchup. So I'm definitely playing for position in the bracket, and he is as well. He hasn't clinched yet, but we'll talk about it later. Win this week would pretty much do that for him. But yeah, I mean, it's you always want to beat the people you like the most. You want to beat the most, which is why I'm looking forward to beating my brother, and why I didn't really care that much when I beat you.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. So one person that does have a very interesting next 3 weeks and could be actually there's really 2 teams, but one team in particular, and that's Olave Lamp. So Olave Lamp plays you, Scott, this week. He plays Benny Denny next week, and then the matchup of all matchups, him versus Griffin, week 14. So not only could
He's got some winning to do if he wants to stay in.
Yeah, so if Olave Lamp is able to pull off a couple of upsets, then he makes it much easier on himself to get in.
Yeah.
With that being said, Olave Lamp beating you and Benny Denny over the next 2 weeks seems unlikely. Week 13, for those of you who have not looked ahead, is just brutal for most teams. But Benny Denny is not one of those teams. He has both of his guys. So Olave Lamp's going to have a lot of work to do in order to win the next 2 weeks. However, since he plays Griffin in week 14, and Griffin also has a brutal schedule, Griffin over the next couple of weeks, let me just pull up the schedule really quick. He plays against, oh God, I have it. Okay. Griffin plays against B Guider this week, so that's a playoff team. Week 13, he plays Sprague's Dogs. And yes, Sprague's Dogs is going to get hit by that bye week, but certainly not the matchup that Griffin is going to be wanting that week. And then, as mentioned, week 14, he and Olave Lamb play head to head. So, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I would expect Olave Lamb and Griffin to have the same record in all likelihood going into that week 14 matchup. And that means that what Bob needs to be focused on, in my opinion, is not necessarily just winning the game. He just needs to score more points than Griffin. Because if they end up in a situation where they have the same record at the end of that week 14 matchup, whether maybe it's Griffin pulls off the upset against your brother or something like that, it's going to come down to the points. That's the first tiebreaker. We've talked about it a lot. We talked about it after my 50-point performance, how that could affect me in the standings because I just scored so few points that week that it knocked me down. So that's really what I want. What I think Bob is going to have to be paying attention to if he's not able to pull off these upsets is making sure that his point totals are respectable and that he's just continuing to outscore Griffin. Now, he does have a pretty significant lead on Griffin in points. Griffin has a disgustingly low 1,105 points. Olave Lamb, 1,277. So it would be pretty shocking if Griffin was able to pass him on points. But, it is something to just pay attention to over the next couple of weeks if you guys like to watch the scoreboards like Scott and I do.
Yeah, that is remarkable fantasy football insight that you want to score more points than your competitors. We'll be sure to subclip that and export it just for Nolan so you can follow along and try to pick up a few things. Looking on to the toilet bowl, we have some matchups here. And really, this is going to be the bracket of how can you avoid playing McBuckets, because McBuckets is absolutely going to torch this bracket. Keeping him safe from the toilet bowl contrition.
I think that's very fair. I mean, certainly it is rare to see a team that is currently in last place be the team that I would consider to be the least likely to win the toilet bowl. But with McBuckets, I genuinely think that's true. I mean, this week played you, and he scored the third most.
$1.25. So I should apologize for, and it's so rare that I admit when I'm wrong because I'm just not wrong that often. But I'll take this moment. I said when Deshaun went down last week that oh my God, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. Are you fucking kidding me back there? I said when Deshaun went down last week.
Don't cut any of this out. Don't cut any of this.
I said when Deshaun went out last week that he lost Amari Cooper, Ford, and Njoku if DTR was going to be the quarterback. And that's not true. I was wrong. I undersold DTR. He's not a bad quarterback. And although Amari Cooper definitely gets a cap on him, it's still a great running game for Ford, and Njoku is getting force fed. Absolutely just shoved targets down his throat 3 to 5 yards down the field. So I think that they're going to be smash plays for the rest of the year. The tight end schedule and the running back schedule for the Browns are immaculate for the rest of the season. So I think Corey is not only going to sweep the toilet bowl, but I'm predicting that he beats one of the teams that he's not favored to beat going into the last 3 weeks of the regular season. Hopefully it's you. I mean, he could very well be the dying or the dagger that puts you out of the playoffs when it comes to it in week 14.
Yeah. So that's obviously not what I want to see. It's also unlikely, just being completely honest. But definitely he could put me into the 6th spot. And at that point, I'm hoping that I can make it into the 5th, the 4th spot, move up, but I think that's also unlikely. I feel pretty locked into 5th at this point. But as the 5th seed, I play the 4th seed. So I would be in a slightly better position. If I fall back to 6th, now all of a sudden, I'm looking at playing potentially your brother who's been on a hot streak, and B Guider has been too, but yeah, like that's where McBuckets can really like screw with like the playoff seeding. But I mean, let's just be honest here. He has some real spoiler opportunities. He plays B Guider week 13. He's currently favored to win. I don't know what the bye week situation is there, but like he's going to be right in that game. There's no question about that. And then this week he is playing Benny Denny. So like those are teams that are trying to get buys. Like he can totally spoil their opportunities to get buys, and he can spoil my opportunity to he could spoil my opportunity to get in the playoffs if I don't execute against Nolan.
Week 13 is the Raiders are also on bye, which means all of B Guider's team is on bye.
There you go.
Because they are the same thing.
So, that's the thing for McBuckets is like he could take him, and like I play Briggsy week 13. My team is absolutely decimated by that bye week. Briggsy could easily steal a victory that week. And I know that you're playing Nolan that week. I know that you have some pretty big teams on bye as well. So it's like
by some big teams, you mean my big team?
Yeah, the whole team, the whole roster.
The Bills, the Vikings, the Bears, all of them gone.
So it's like it's gonna be week 13 is gonna be one of those weird weeks where it's like a team that's been down low in the standings all year. If they don't they probably don't have some of the better offenses on their team. Those teams might be playing week 13. It's a weird one. So, a lot of interesting things can happen over the next 3 weeks in the playoffs. By no means should anybody feel like super comfortable, but it seems likely that we have 5 teams that are pretty confidently going to make it. And then it's really like Olave, Lamp, and Griffin. But again, anything can happen. I don't feel 100% confident that I'm going to make it into the playoffs. Like I could easily trip over myself, lose 2 out of 3, and like end up having to beat someone on points. So
it's not like that has happened to you in the last 3 weeks that you've lost 2 out of 3 weeks. And
yeah,
it's not like you have a history of fucking up like that.
Yeah. So, it'll definitely be an interesting 3 weeks. Moving on, as mentioned at the beginning, we did have a very active trade deadline. But by our standards, like there were 3 trades that were done. I know that I had a lot of conversations happening all at once during the Monday night game. I'm sure you did as well, Scott.
I was texting everybody.
But we did have 3 trades go through. So I think I'm going to focus first on this trade between Griffin and B Guider. And Scott, can you kind of give me some background on this? Because I know you have more details on this than I do.
Yeah, this was stupid. I whatever. They both agreed to it, so it gets done. So we got DK Metcalf and a 2025 third going to B Guider in exchange for Johan Dodson and a 2024 second and a 2026 second. And this offer, if I'm understanding the story correctly, was offered by B Guider maybe 2 months ago. And then, I was sitting down to make some deadline deals myself, and I have no shame about texting people and, bothering them during their normal dinner time hours and demanding that they look at fantasy football. I'm trying to get shit done here. And I texted Griffin and I said, look, tonight's the deadline. I'm going to annoy you until you give me an answer. And I feel like I can move on. And then he started looking at the trade offers that I had offered him. And we were going back and forth. And then he started looking at all of the trade offers that have been offered to him over the last couple months and just saw that one. He saw something special in it and just smashed the accept button. So that was an offer that was offered 2 months ago and then just accepted out of the blue. So congratulations, B Guider. Have fun with DK Metcalf.
I think it's a great addition by B Guider to, bring DK in. That Seattle passing offense looks like it's finally figuring itself out. And then Ken Walker ends up getting hurt this week. Don't know how serious it's going to end up being. So the running game might not be as much of an option. I mean, Charbonnet looks solid, but
Charbonnet looks really good.
Yeah, but
I might have been trying to pick him up also.
I mean, I tried to pick him up multiple times when I had Ken Walker because I knew this was going to happen. But Metcalf was great, and he's been solid all year. I think it's a good pickup, and costing a couple of picks and Jahan Dotson, that's fine. B Guider was also active with me, trading me $20 of fab for a 3rd round pick in this upcoming draft. Scott, I know you had some thoughts on this, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, this is the domestic terrorist strikes again, first of all. He's out in the streets, hide your kids. He's out here helping the enemy, doing the reverse Underground Railroad, if you will. I don't like this at all. I don't understand what he's doing. I mean, business. I told him when I saw it, business is business. Now give me the rest of your fab, and he declined. And so I looked on. Whatever. I get what you were trying to do. I was trying to do the same thing, and then I realized that you had made this trade on Saturday. When I sat down on Sunday to make my acquisitions. And then my text started getting more urgent and more capital letters were used. The whole process became more of an act now situation.
Well, for the record, B Guider approached me with this offer. I did not approach him. So this was not something that I was looking to do, was add more fab, but I was happy that it came together. But you did respond with honestly a pretty big trade.
It did not start this way. I was shopping either a combination of Jonnu Smith and Antonio Gibson for fab, and then also trying to get a pick for this year, just a 3rd round pick or whatever. And I was also entertaining offers of moving some of my later 3rd round picks for a 3rd round pick this year and fab. I knew how much money I needed to get to cover you. And so that sort of became my benchmark for the minimum of what I needed. I think you're sitting at 26 now, and I had 9 at the time. So I knew I needed to get myself to 27. And yeah, I mean, I had conversations with everybody that could bankroll my aspirations, besides Benny Denny, because I didn't think he would be as willing to help me out, being one of the competitor that could buy out anybody. And I know McBuckets had expressed that he didn't understand what I was trying to get done. He didn't think he said that he didn't see the risk in you winning again. He said you're a middling 500 team that hasn't looked good in weeks, which is all true. But you were a middling 500 team last year that didn't look good for weeks, and you slipped into the playoffs and then just did good for 3 weeks. Not even like no blow up games. You just did fine for 3 weeks and won. I like this team too much. I like this roster too much. I cannot let it go down that way. I needed fab.
But I can't let them know how much I want it, because then they'll have all the leverage. You see what I'm saying? That is trump card element of the deal. Number 1. Use your leverage.
So I turned to Nolan, offered him like the modest offers that I was looking for. And as conversations with Nolan do, they spiraled out of control very quickly. And then we landed on this. I said, look, the deadline's coming. I have offers out to countless other people. We've done deals every year we've been in a league together. I was like, this is the moment. Say yes. And he said yes. So this is the deal we got. I'm happy to be out of the Jonnu Smith market. I think he's a fine tight end, but I don't want any piece of Atlanta, the city, the football team. I don't want any of it. I hate Arthur Smith with a burning passion. I'll never know what week is the Jonnu Smith week, and I knew that I would be tempted to play him in the playoffs, and so I was just removing that as a possibility. And I get not one but two picks in this upcoming draft, which I'm very excited about. A fifth round, I'm sorry, $50 in fab, so I have enough to buy my way into whatever player that comes up that I like, and to play a little defense against other people if they see things that they like. And then I bring in Elijah Moore, who I have loved since he was drafted by the Jets, loved even more when they brought him to the Browns. Go Browns. And I think DTR is going to get more comfortable. We'll start seeing the 15, 20-yard passes. Joe Flacco's coming in. He might play, he might not, but, whatever his tendencies might be. But really, this was a pickup for next year. Even if he is, the Michael Thomas replacement for next year of just the spot start for 10 points, that's fine. That's the baseline. But I feel like there is a untapped ceiling for Elijah Moore, and I'm really excited that he's on my team.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you guys who aren't looking at the screen, Scott does give up Jonnu Smith and a 2026 first rounder to acquire all of the assets that he just went through. I think that, it's a very reasonable offer. I mean, 2026 first round pick is a lot to give up for, a second, a third fab and Elijah Moore, but the league might reset by then. Like, I could win it this year. You could win it 2 years in a row. Like, someone else could. Benny Denny could win it 2 years in a row. Like, that's totally plausible.
Well, and I feel like my team is not setting me up for a top 5 first round pick that year. So it's really, a back half, maybe even like, you could value it at a second round pick, depending if my team's really good still in that year. I don't know. I think 2026 will be playing with this set of draft picks and all that. So I think it will happen. But yeah, I mean, that was certainly part of it, is that there could be a world where I win this year, I win next year, and 2026 we're all playing with new assets. So that definitely came into play when I was making the deal.
Yeah, and you have so many assets on your team as it is that, like, if you feel like you want to get a pick in 2026, like, you'll have an opportunity to get that done. So
well, and by that time I'll have 2027 draft picks and 2028 draft picks also.
Yeah, so I think it's a solid deal, and it does replenish your fab like significantly, and allows you to block anybody that you figure out I want. Or
we'll say this. I think when I saw your trade, because I was sitting down to buy fab anyway, and then that's when I saw that your trade had processed or had been accepted. I thought you had made a half measure. I made a full measure.
No more half measures, Walter.
I will not be outspent by you this year. The league will go on to next year. That is my only goal for this season. And I think I set myself in, now that the trade deadline's passed, I've been very conservative. And I still think like there are games on my schedule the rest of the way that I could lose. Really, I could see a path that I lose all 3 of them. I won't, but they're all losable games. To Nolan when I have bye weeks. Bob has an explode or bust team, and then the game against Eric, it just depends what the Cowboys do. But now that we're at this place and the rosters are more solidified after the trade deadline, I feel like this trade put me in a better position to win this season, and going into next season, I'm set up better with draft picks, with a 23-year-old wide receiver. I think I'm in a better position to move into next year than I was, yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, B Guider and I talked about it a little bit after we made the deal. Like neither one of us really knew how to value Fab as an asset. Like especially this late in the season, like there are so few players who are going to come available that are going to be even potential starters that I wasn't sure how valuable it really was. Originally, B Guider wanted McBucket's third round pick. I wasn't, and so I switched it out for mine because I think mine will probably be 305 and McBuckets will be, in the top 3. So I thought it's interesting because I've just never made a Fab trade before. So it was an interesting sort of, situation. I think I definitely agree. Like you made a much more aggressive play to solidify your team now and then also add assets for the next year. And we'll see if you have any draft picks to make next year because I'm not just gonna give up.
No, but your team might. You've said before they don't believe in you as an emperor.
They didn't believe
So
in the rebrand. We've moved away.
I asked you if they respected you as the emperor, and you said they do not. That was your exact quote.
And changing the name and using the emperor branding just wasn't the right move, and I think the players showed that was not acceptable with their
So
performance.
they don't accept you as the emperor,
They don't want me to win.
and don't think I won't put it up on the fucking screen.
Saquon is bad.
I will say this. Corey had brought up the same point that you just brought up, that likely there will not be a player that comes up that's a league breaker, in the next couple weeks on the waiver wire. But I also think that the amount of fab you put down on a player is different in the playoffs than it is during the regular season. In that, using Rico Dowdle, I know B Guider just picked him up for nothing, but let's pretend he was a free agent for a moment. Going into the first week of the playoffs, if Tony Pollard goes down, Rico Dowdle is all of a sudden a dump all of the fab you have on that player. Even if Pollard is just questionable and we don't know, you'd throw all of your chips on at that point. And I didn't have that many chips. So I feel like, what might have been a $10 player 3 weeks ago becomes a $20 player next week, or, as soon as we inch towards the playoffs here. So the value of them fab wise does go up, and I might not end up using any of it. I might just hoard it, but have it. And then if I don't feel the need to use it, that's why I made sure I got picks and a young receiver for a tight end that I would be too scared to play in the playoffs anyway. And a first round pick, which I feel like odds are 2026 happens in this league. I didn't trade it away because I didn't think we would have that year. But I feel like I can figure out, if I want a first round pick in 2026, I can figure out how to get it from trading. And I have 2 years or 3 years or whatever to figure out how to figure that out.
I agree. So let's talk about the picks for this week. We have not been discussing the games the last couple weeks because I have had to make my contrition video.
Well, should we just hold off and wait for Nolan's video to come out, and then that could just kind of be the matchup preview for everybody to have fun with?
I think that we should maybe make one just in case he doesn't come.
Just in case. Okay, just in case. I'll just save it. I'll park it on the side. That way we have it.
So we have it.
So we have it. That way we have it. That way you have it.
As we've discussed, Olave Lamp is going up against the Killing Unicorns this week. Pretty big underdog going into it, but anything can happen. I think, Scott, I think you're going to be able to pull this one out. I hope for Olave Lamp's sake that he pushes you this week, but I do think that you're going to be able to take home the victory.
Yeah, I don't think Justin Jefferson plays this week, but I need to build in a spot on my roster he doesn't play till Monday night. Games are going to be happening all week. I feel like I need to keep a spot open just in case he does come back. But I don't think he does, in which case Ty Chandler is going to get the call, or Khalil Herbert also plays in that game. So my upside is going to be dependent on the health of Justin Jefferson, and that's a scary thing to bet on these days because he's not going to come back till he's 100%. And they have a bye week.
You have a bye week next week.
Yeah, and so like if he skips this game and next game because of the bye and then comes back for week 14, it's probably for the best. But I clinched, so like I can get by until he's, I've been holding this all in for the last couple of weeks when everybody's been hurt, and now I feel like I can slowly start to exhale as now I know I'm in the playoffs as people are starting to come back.
Yeah.
Kieran Williams.
It is worth noting Nakua questionable.
Yeah.
Tyree questionable and playing on a Friday at noon. So
yeah.
I think both of them play. I think they're both fine. I don't know what Cooper Kupp's status is in terms of Nakua. And then obviously
if Cooper Kupp sits and Nakua goes, it's game over. Sorry, Bob.
But like and then as you're mentioning, Kieran is coming back. But as of now, not in your lineup.
No, I try my very hardest not to start a running back coming off IR the first week he comes back, especially with an ankle thing. See Exhibit Achane for how that goes. So I know I'm gonna let him play a week and then work him into the lineup. But it's fun. It's been a while since I've had to like toil with lineup decisions, because in the beginning of the season it was just I had smash starts for everybody, and then everyone started to get hurt. So it was more like if you were a human that was healthy and playing football, you were in my lineup.
The Derek Carr rule.
Yes. And then everything else kind of just fell into place. And now that I have a full-ish roster for the first time in a while, it's fun to be able to check between different, multiple options for multiple positions.
For sure. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. Obviously, as I said before, it's just about points for Bob. Like, just keep outscoring Griffin to set yourself up for that week 14.
I'll put my very best defense out there.
Victory. I'm taking on Nolan again, as we've discussed a little bit this week. So, with Nolan, it's like, what quarterback is he going to play? Who knows? Probably Stroud, considering he doesn't have the balls to play.
Will Joe Burrow slip into the lineup?
Yeah, well, he does lose Darrell Henderson, who got released today.
Yup, that means that Kieran's coming back.
And
did not do their homework before the trade deadline.
I don't know if Achane is gonna play. I know that he was trying to get back in last week. McDaniels held him out. Will an Atlanta tight end make an appearance? There's a lot of question marks. Ken Walker looks like he's not gonna play. I don't want to get confident. It's Griffin, or it's Nolan. I beat Griffin last week. It's Nolan. But I don't know. I just I can't not pick myself. I picked myself both contrition weeks. I'm gonna pick myself again. Honestly, if I lose this week, I deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep picking yourself statistically, you will get it right once or twice.
Yeah, eventually. Do you concur that I have a decent chance at beating Nolan?
I mean, yeah, you have a decent chance of beating a fifth grader in a street fight also, but doesn't mean it'll happen 100% of the time.
They're scrappy.
Look, Nolan's put up weeks before, and they're impossible to predict.
And then he immediately demanded respect.
Which makes it even harder to predict, because once he does that, it's game over. He's probably I don't think Achane plays this week. I think they're gonna be there's no reason they don't have a reason to force him back. Mostert is the 1A. They're playing the Jets, but I still think they can outgame. I mean, the Jets offense is inept. Their defense is really good.
Yeah, aren't
Tyreek
they
Hill-
playing a new quarterback like Tim Boyle or something?
Yeah, it is. Well, we're not talking about waiver wire options this podcast.
We are not.
We're doing it on Tuesday, but Tim Boyle is out there, so maybe Nolan scoops him up
Yeah.
uh, to
Let's,
add
let's
to
add a
his.
fifth quarterback to the roster.
Yeah, to add him. It's been a while, so then it's a one in, one out policy. He just drops Burrow to the wire, and
Yeah.
uh, yes, I don't know. I probably you'd probably beat him, but Nolan has put up weeks before, and you've shown your capacity to fuck things up.
I totally agree. Great analysis. B Guider takes on Griffin. I'm pretty sure there's no bye weeks this week, so everyone's at full strength.
Yeah, there aren't any bye weeks. Next week, it's everybody on my team.
Jones unlikely to play. Like he trades away. He trades Metcalf to B Guider, so B Guider actually gets better because of the trade.
Unbelievable.
I just I'll be honest, like I don't see a situation in which Griffin beats B Guider unless B Guider's team, outperforms my worst week. Like that's like the level of ineptitude you need to see.
Yeah, and I have talked to Griffin before about his running back depth because it's not good. I've tried to make that trade before and give him pieces for, one of his better ones. And now he's in a position where he's still on a playoff push, but he's got Aaron Jones is out. So he's got Jahmyr Gibbs as a starter. And his only other running back options are Royce Freeman,
Bad.
Miles Sanders.
Bad.
I can't. That's it. I can't continue. That's the end of the list.
Two bad options. So
He has two bad options.
he's got a tight end. He's got a tight end in his flex. Like the team
It's George Kittle. We've poo-pooed on that before, but there are circumstances where Sam Laporta and George Kittle are
no. I mean they're
two very playable people to have.
totally play. I tried to get George Kittle at the deadline last night. Like
I know, but I'm just
did.
saying, that is no longer the sign of, if I had Pat Fryermuth in my flex and Trey McBride in my tight end spot, that might be an issue. But his real problem is that he doesn't have any running backs to put in for an injured Aaron Jones.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Griffin. So I'm taking B Guider. Sprague's Dogs plays Briggsy. Briggsy loses Mark Andrews. So
Expect a Isaiah Pacheco investment.
I think Isaiah Likely, right? That's
Isaiah Likely, not Isaiah Pacheco.
Isaiah Likely is the backup there. I would be very surprised if Briggsy doesn't make a heavy offer. Mahomes coming off the L. You never want to be the team that plays Mahomes after he loses. So like maybe Mahomes goes crazy. Definitely Mixon had one of his best weeks with Burrow out. I think it was his best week. Yeah, it was his second best week. He also showed up against San Francisco, but like maybe you see that Singletary's looked like spectacular down in Houston.
Damian Pierce is coming back. I don't know if Singletary has enough juice to do it on his own or within a timeshare. He's never done it in a timeshare before.
No, he hasn't. I'll be honest though, like if I was Houston, I would play Damian Pierce very sparingly. That man makes running look so much harder than Singletary has.
Well, and they're doing very well with Devin Singletary. I know that they really like Damian Pierce. He's now back from injury. He's going to play and he will get snaps. Yep. And every time that happens, it'll eat into the Devin Singletary. I mean, especially in like a redraft league, I would smash the shit out of Singletary. I've tried to get him in a couple other redraft leagues that I had running back needs in. But I think that there might be a swan song coming for Devin Dingleberry.
I would also be pretty surprised if Briggsy doesn't find a way of getting Jaden Reed and Charbonnet into the lineup. Jaden Reed's looked like the wide receiver one in Green Bay the last couple weeks.
Yeah,
And
that's an easier task than I would have hoped it would have been at the beginning of the season.
uh,
There's a connection with him and Love.
there is definitely.
Honestly,
And
as inconsistent as Love has been, not to turn this into a Jordan Love conversation, but they are set up for years with great wide receivers, great tight end, all very young. They're
yeah,
all
they just need a quarterback.
I don't know. I mean, because he's if he were a rookie, you wouldn't be as alarmed with the inconsistencies. And he's not a rookie, but he's played the same amount of games because he was behind Aaron Rodgers for his whole career.
My problem
There's
his problem isn't rookie mistakes. It's that he's not accurate and he doesn't have a good enough, like his arm isn't good enough.
but the play call is exclusively downfield 50-yard passes. So when they hit, then they hit big. And if they don't hit, then you look stupid.
Yeah, but like all the intermediate stuff, like he's like every time I see him
But
play,
they don't do the intermediate, like they just do fucking 9 routes.
yeah, I mean,
To Christian Watson, who can't get down there without hurting his goddamn hamstring.
Christian
But
Watson.
I don't know. I think it's a lot of issues. I don't think all of the issues are on Jordan Love. I will say I'm playing him week 13. He plays Sunday night against Kansas City. I can't wait. He might have negative 30 points. Kansas City defense is really good.
So on the I'm moving on from Jordan Love. On the other side of this matchup, we have Sprague's Dogs, who, as we've said before 1,000 times, is just the Dallas Cowboys in a Halloween costume. They play the Washington Commanders, who Tommy DeVito just scored 3 touchdowns on. So Briggsy, as much as I think you've got some pieces that could potentially put together a nice week, I think CeeDee Lamb is gonna go for like 203 touchdowns on his own.
Yeah, unless they bench him at halftime.
Like, yeah, I think that like your only hope is that they just don't play the fourth quarter. Like,
yeah, they might do what Marvin Harrison Jr. did last week, which is catch like 2 passes for 30 yards and a touchdown, and then they're like, "All right, you're good. You just sit out. You're
kind of what they did in Carolina this week too, like where it's just like they always knew they were going to win, so they just didn't really execute at a high level. The Commanders are awful, like truly, truly terrible, and like Tommy DeVito just looked like a competent NFL quarterback against them. That's how bad they are. My computer is dying, so we're going to move on to the next one. Last matchup of the week, Benny Denny taking on McBuckets. We just talked about McBuckets scoring the 3rd most points in the league last week. He would have beaten Benny Denny if they had played. This is, on paper, a matchup that should be a blowout. I don't think it will be. I think McBuckets is going to put up a heck of a fight. He's got my boy.
I'm a McBuckets believer for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he is going to pester all of the bubble teams, and I'm excited for it. Good luck.
We've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about Sprague's Dogs being, the Cowboys with a Halloween costume on, but to a certain extent, McBuckets is kind of the
Browns.
He's a combination of the Browns and the Texans because he's got
the Brown Texans.
He's got Cooper, Dell, Njoku, Ford, and Collins on his roster. So it's like if the Browns
and Cooper
and the Texans have
and DVR,
like McBuckets is gonna go off. So with that being said, like Benny Denny has been a consistent like 120 to 130 point scorer every single week. And I see no reason. Again, I don't want to be Las Vegas. You're playing Mahomes and Kelsey the week after, like those guys just lost to a Philly team that they probably should have beaten. They are not going to be happy. But I think this is going to be a closer matchup than it looks like it will be on paper.
Yeah, I think this is your shootout candidate. I again, it's hard to say that the smart bet isn't McBuckets, but I'm a believer in the team. So if he goes out and puts up 125 and ekes out a win, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, if we were
That's going to
betting,
be the narrative for the rest of the season.
if we were betting on this game, I would probably take Benny Denny, but I wouldn't put a lot of money on it because
I would take McBuckets and the points if you were offering me a
yeah,
spread.
if you're getting points, yeah, I would probably be there.
But I'm taking McBuckets plus
So
20.
some stakes for this week. If Sprague's Dogs, B Guider, and Benny Denny, if any of those three teams win, they will clinch a playoff spot. I feel again, I don't know if Sleeper will actually like note this, but based on the math that Scott and I did in our pre-production meeting,
And we're very, very good at math.
very good. I don't see a way for those teams to miss the playoffs if they win this week. Maybe there is one and I'm not aware of it, but they should be pretty much 100% in if they win. If not officially, then certainly unofficially in my eyes.
Which is
This
what
is yeah.
Honestly.
So that is something to just note. Benny Denny is like almost 100%. Like that's a clinching win if he's able to pull that off. Sprague's Dogs, B Guider, I'm a little less positive, but I feel very confident that they're gonna have the stupid little asterisk next to their rank next week too, if they're able to pull off wins. So
you wouldn't think it
potentially,
was stupid if you ever had one. You didn't get one last year.
I can't wait to get mine at some point
So it's not so stupid.
next year.
It won't be because you're going to be on the outside until week 14 this year as well. And then you'll probably make it in, but
Who knows?
I'll snuff that shit out real quick.
But yeah, so in order for me to even think about getting one of those little asterisks, I need to beat Nolan. It's going to be a fun one, but I think overall it's going to be a fun week. Next week's going to be brutal, but for now we have our full lineups, so no excuses. And I'm looking
sure we'll still hear a couple.
Oh, I'm writing them down. All right. Well, Scott, I don't have anything else to talk about, and my computer is about to die.
Well, don't let it die before you send me the files.
Well, everyone, I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Enjoy football, and we will talk to you next week.
Later.
Do my clips and stuff. I see